Hi there, geometry. It's time for session 4, which is the equations of circles. So when we talked about equation of circles, we had a technique called completing the square, and that's what we're going to take a look at in questions 1 and 2. Remember, I told you in class, I do think there is a typo somewhere in number 2, so let's not get too hung up about the irrelevance of the actual answer, and let's just try to really focus on the technique of how to get us there. So when we complete the square, the first thing I want to do is I want to group my terms by their variables. So as I take a look at the left side of number 1, I have x squared. I have a negative 8x. And I'm going to complete that square. So I'm going to put a box in here. So I'm going to add something to that side. Move that over. And then my y's, I have a y squared and a 12y. And I'm going to complete that square as well. And it's going to equal 30. And now I'm going to add to that 30 whatever those two boxes I've added to the left of the equation, I'm going to add to the right of the equation as well. So when I complete the square, remember I've told you I like to complete the square kind of in a different fashion here. Not really a different fashion, just a different order. So if I have x squared minus 8x, half of negative 8 is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that middle term, that negative 8x. And when I think, what is half of negative 8? It's negative 4. So my completed square will be negative x minus 4. The negative 4 because half of negative 8. And then inside the box is going to be that number, negative 4, when I square it. Negative 4 squared is 16. So that's the first thing I'll add to both sides. When I do the y's, it's going to be the same thing. I have y squared plus 12y. Well, half of 12 is 6. So y plus 6. And then what gets added? Well, 6 squared is 36. That gets added to both sides. And then I can combine like terms on the right. 30 plus 16 plus 36 is 82. And there's your equation of that circle. This circle, it doesn't ask for this, but the circle would have a center at positive 4, negative 6. Because remember, the signs have to be opposites. And it would have a radius of radical 82, which would be just over 9 if you were to put that into your calculator. All right, so number 2. Like I said, I think that this is probably a typo. So what I need to do is I need to clear the constant, and I'm going to combine like terms. So I have a negative 4x and a positive 6x. So I have x squared, negative 4 plus 6 is 2x. So I'll complete that square. And then I also have a y squared. But since there's no y to the first, there's nothing to complete. And I had to clear the constant by subtracting 20 on both sides, so I'll get negative 20 on the right-hand side. So I only have one square to even complete. And since I'm going to add something to one side, I'll add it to both. So here we go. Half of positive 2 is positive 1, and 1 squared is 1. So that'll add to both sides. I'll have my y squared here. And if you think about that, that y squared is like having y minus 0 squared. And negative 20 plus 1 is negative 19. That is an equation of a circle. Now, unfortunately, the center of this circle would be at negative 1, 0. And it would have a radius that is a negative distance. And right now, what you know about Euclidean geometry, there is no way to take the square root of a negative number. Those of you that are in Algebra 2 do know that when you take the square root of a negative number, you will get an I. So that is an imaginary radius, I guess. So don't worry about the relevance of the problem as long as you understand the concepts of completing the square in order to find the equation of the circle. That is the most important part of this. All right, and the last one says state all the key components and then graph the conic. So as I take a look at this, I can see that it's a circle because it's in my general form. And since it's x plus 4 quantity squared, my center, remember, when you take the number out of parentheses, it's, think opposites. So it's x plus 4, so the center is at negative 4 for the x value. And my y quantity is y minus 5, so that would be positive 5. and it is set equal to r squared. So the radius is the square root of that 9. And the square root of 9, we know, is 3. So in order to graph this, I'll go -4, +5. This is my center. I'll mark it with an X. And then the radius is 3. So I'll go from the center up 3 and down 3, right 3, and left 3. And then connect those dots to make a circle. And I know that one was short, but that is the end of equations of circles.